Our movie begins with a very famous broadcaster named Lita, who we know specializes in the world of ghosts and the secrets of the underworld. She is currently in her own program called House of Ghosts, which is being shown in the theater. The number of attendees was very, very large. At the time, she was showing some videos that she had filmed in one of the ghost houses that she was accustomed to visiting. At that time, everyone was very terrified of what was being shown and could not understand what they were seeing or what they were hearing. Suddenly, a very strange person appeared. Leda became terrified by what happened. The strange thing is that she is the only one who sees it, and no one in the theater sees it or feels it. Because of this, she is unable to complete the program and stays. She was exaggerating and speaking incomprehensible words, and she was very confused. Then the director, whose name is Laurie, came in to see her money and give her some money. He quickly closed the episode and took her to her room to rest, but she went to the bathroom to take a pill of her tranquilizer, and he revealed to us that she was taking a very large amount of it throughout the program, and that was why her manager, he prevents her from having him while she is in the bathroom. Laurie comes in and takes the sedative from her and throws it in her. At the same time, a letter comes to her from her mother, whose name is Delia, and who needs her as soon as possible. She quickly goes to her place of work, and she keeps looking for her. When I meet her, she gives charity when she learns from her that her father, Charles, died, and when she asks her how he died, she knows that he died in a pilot accident at some point. He was returning from his last trip to watch birds, and while they were talking to each other, someone came from outside and shouted at them for an inexplicable reason, and then he goes outside and falls into the sewer in front of the door. After he passes this person, whose name is Ben, he finds himself in another world other than the one he was in. He remains neither aware nor remembers anything, nor how he got here in the first place. But fortunately for him, he finds an old man standing far away and He does not move or speak, so Beirut is his and asks him about anything you know where he is, and here the man gives him a very strange response and tells him that he would rather walk somewhere. At the end of the corridor on the right, he takes a number and enters the second door, and then the old man leaves it and enters his room and turns here. He is an unusual human being, and he looks like this from the living dead, or more correctly, a zombie. But he does not last a few seconds either, and your house is from the electricity wire that is in the ground, but good luck, he does not die. But what happens is worse and stranger than that, which is that the tooth that was knocked on falls, and a single, terrifying corpse emerges from it. But every bit, in one direction, the parts of the corpse began to move, gathered themselves, and formed again. Beirut had the old man to let her leave the place, but he did not know that he was going to end his life with his own hands, and this was because she grabbed him and sucked all his blood from him, and literally nothing was left of him except his skin. And here we know that this world is called the world of the dead, and only one person rules, and we will also know it a little on the other hand. We go alone, her name is Astrid, and the one who is at her school is the daughter of Leda, the famous broadcaster. Astrid's problem at school will be because of her mother and her family at the same time, and this is because all her friends keep making fun of her because of her mother and her work in the ghost world, and it is in their beliefs that what her mother is doing is not true. And at the time when Astrid was attending her classes there, his center would come to her Leda and her grandmother Delia, want them to know that her grandfather Charles has died. And of course, this situation has caused her great embarrassment among her friends, and she still does not know what to do. But she is satisfied with the reality and is proud of herself that she is sitting with them, and this is to hear from them what she wants to say. So, she gives that they need her to come with them. The funeral will also take place and will also be removed from the house, but Astrid gives them a very shocking response. She claims that she is going with them on the pretext that she is having a party at school, and she leaves and walks away, and we return again to the world of the dead, and here we see someone named Pete the Joss, and this is the one who is the ruler of this world, and we learn at that time that he has known his hand for years, and was in love with her, and the evidence is that he used to appear to her at different times in the matter. This caused her constant terror, and after a while, Beetlejuice went to meet a protection official in the world of the dead, whose name is the detective. Wolf, and this is because he asked him for important things, which is that there was a woman named Lois who escaped from prison and started killing everyone present. Here he laughs that it is the same corpse that ended up on the old man in a terrifying way. At that time, the Gus house is shocked when he sees her picture, and we do not know what made him so terrified. He also denies that he knows her, but Wolf is sure that she knows him well, as evidenced by the fact that she wrote his name everywhere and in some form. Revenge, and in return he goes to a place in a queue. A lot of people are gathered and workers are issuing tickets for Beirut, and he asks the employee where exactly he is. The employee answers him and tells him that he should take a number and wait a while. On the other side, the funeral is being held for the soul of the late Charles, and the good thing is that Astrid attended the funeral, and the reason for that is that she loved her grandfather very much because his way of thinking was different from that of her mother and grandmother, and after a while she left. She sits with Leda and asks her to let her see her father in his ghost form, but Leda tells her that she will not be able to do this to her because the matter is very difficult, and she does not know how, and Astrid becomes very upset with her for the second time. We return again to the world of the dead, and we find that Lois is continuing on her way and searching for Beetlejuice, thinks that they have an old account between them and wants to settle it, so she goes to a worker in the place and kills in her own way. She takes one of the dresses and changes its color as soon as she puts her hands on it. At the same time, Beetlejuice is sitting with his assistant, whose name is Bob, who is very worried and does not want Lois to know his location. Here we find out why he is so afraid of her, why he is terrified of her, and why she is looking for him. The whole story is that 1,000 years ago, he was working as a gravedigger at the time, and in those days, Louis came to him. She saw him, fell in love with him, and married him. At that time, he did not know that she was the leader of the soul capture tribe, and her first and last desire was his soul, so that she could live her eternal life. But before she got rid of him, he got rid of her first, and he was the one who cut her off and locked her in boxes, and that is why her intention is always to take revenge, and the second day is at home. Leda, in his time of need, Charles makes Laurie a decision that is not at the right time in front of everyone present, and it is an offer. Leda's marriage will also determine the joy of 2 days later on Halloween, and of course everyone will be shocked by this decision. My daughter will also be shocked and does not know what he will do, and she does not know what she will do either, but she is satisfied with the status quo and agrees to the marriage, and in return, she will get her daughter back. She does not like the situation and leaves. She rides her bike and walks from home at all, and while she was walking in, the city is about to have an accident, so Fadi wanders into the car and thus stumbles upon the pictures of someone's house, and in the end she stumbles upon the tree. After that we find that in this tree there is a young man named Kevin, and he lives in it as a kind of calm, comfort, and psychological peace. He goes down to it, checks on it, and gets to know each other. They also have nothing in common, and from their conversations with each other, they are surprised here that he is her biggest fan, but Astrid is not. She would like her to bring up her mother's biography in this conversation, so Kevin told me that she does not like to talk about this topic of ghosts, and this is because she does not believe in him, and he knows that he will be in this same place tomorrow, so that means if she wants, she can come sit with him and be separated from the world for a little while, and on the other side is in the world of the dead. Lois is still searching for Beetlejuice, and anyone who meets her will get rid of him without getting close to him, even while at the same time he is the investigator. He was on fire because the number of victims was very large, and he was afraid that he would be one of these victims after a while. And on the other hand, the house of the Joss was very terrified, and because of this, he made Bob disguise himself as himself in order to be a bait for her, and thus he could escape. And in Leda's house, Astrid preferred to wander around the house until, when you reach the last floor, you uncover a very large model of their neighborhood and the surrounding area. And here you flip through the box and the old papers and find in a strange piece of paper that looks like a letter, but she doesn't pay attention to it and continues flipping through the photo album of her, her father, and her mother. When she was young, Leda entered and sat with her for a while. She then saw the strange paper next to her and reconciled with the name Beetlejuice written on it. She also warned Astrid not to say his name 3 times because she wanted to find a way to summon him. You quickly get her out of the place before she gets into trouble, and the next morning she comes out. In order to meet Kevin, Astrid stays with his worried hand and talks to Delia about the subject of the letter she found from the goose house. She also feels that he is around her all the time, and she remains very distracted. In return, Astrid meets Kevin and learns that he is very interested in scary fantasy stories and is also interested in the world of the dead. She also has in her hand his guidebook for the dead. This book will be very important, and after some talking with each other, you will learn that Astrid does not like her job, and this is because on her last trip, she lost her father, whose name was Charlie, and at that time he died drowned in the river, so Kevin tells her how she couldn't ask Lita to let her see her father's likeness, because it means that she can see his death. And so she gives this topic and she refuses. So Kevin tells her that she will meet him tomorrow on Halloween, and she of course agrees, because this will be the same day she gets married, and she doesn't want to attend at all. At home, Leda is very terrified because Beetlejuice is sending her messages and hints, which is that he will appear to her soon, and is just waiting for her to say his name 3 times. She keeps telling Laurie to find relief from the terror she is in, and she tells him that their family used to cast out a demon, and that this is the demon. He wanted to marry her in order to return to the real world, and of course this devil was the House of the Prowl, and one of his conditions was that he return to the real world once. Secondly, he is marrying any woman from this world, so he sold his choice to Leda. And this is because she was the closest person to his world, the world of the dead, and here Laurie is acting foolishly and recklessly as usual, and he mentions Beetlenut's name 3 times, and because of this, he is transported inside the hologram, and suddenly they fall inside a time portal that transports them to the world of the dead, and there, he meets her at the House of the Prowler and quickly goes with a caravan of bugs so that she doesn't say the sentence. He wants to return to the real world, and then he begins to terrify them with his movements and behavior, and because they are in his world, he can do anything he wants, and he keeps coming out of his body very strange things. Also, a strange and terrifying child emerges from Leda's body at the same time, but Leda is untying the thread from her bug. She can say the sentence that takes her back to the real world, and the sentence is that she says to go home 3 times, and she actually can say that she is coming back. Suddenly, Laurie finds himself dreaming of a very strange and terrifying nightmare, but he does not know that everything he saw is real and realistic. Quickly, Leda goes to inform Astrid and Delia that they must leave the house immediately and that they must also destroy the model. Of course, Astrid refuses because she promised Kevin that she would meet him on Halloween, and at night Leda would drop her off because you check on her, and she comes back to the house, and in return, Astrid comes in and meets here. She believes it when she reveals his secret, which is that he is a ghost, and he has been laughing at her and working all this time. She believes that ghosts are real, and that Leda actually sees them. Astrid remains unable to understand that he is a ghost and asks to leave immediately, but Kevin tells her that he has been living alone all this time because no one has spoken to anyone. He doesn't meet her and tells her that there is a way he can bring her back to being a real person again, which is that he makes her read the spell from the book. Whoever has this is so that he can open the portal between the world of the dead and the real world, and of course Astrid agrees because she misses her father very much, and herself sees him, and so Kevin is able to deceive her for the 2nd time and use her to open the portal through which he can return to being a second real person. On the other hand, Leda speaks with Delia's business manager. She imagines that the house that Kevin lives in is the same haunted house that she did not want to buy, and she also knows that the news says Kevin killed his father and his mother when he was young, and he was also the one who committed suicide and killed himself when the police came to arrest him. He quickly leaves her alone and walks to catch Astrid from death, but she does not catch up, and it will be too late. Kevin opened the gate to the world of the dead and they too entered, and here Astrid is very shocked. She really is. In the world of ghosts and the dead, her mother really does not deceive people as she says, and after Kevin leaves her, he goes to ask at the box office about the place from which he can return again to the real world. This place is called the Integration Department, and in the real world, Delia makes a crazy move to go to Charles in the world of the dead and meet him. She loves poisonous expressions and withdraws from them and dies, and in return, she returns to his house with a guidebook for the dead. This is to see how to open the gate, and quickly go to the model and summon Beetlejuice, and this is to clear it. He shows her a way to return her daughter Astrid, and the House of the Joss informs her that as soon as Astrid read the spell, she agreed to exchange her life for Kevin's life. And the biggest problem is that she will not be able to return again to the world of biology because she agreed to exchange her life for Kevin's life, so she gives an exchange deal between them so that she can enter the world of life. The dead, but Beetlejuice made a condition that she would marry him first, and in fact, Lida agreed to his condition and was able to. She enters the world of the dead, and in return, a large group of workers comes out to the real world. At the same time, news reaches Wolf that there is a human being who has entered the world of the dead illegally, because the law is that the person must die first in order to be able to move to the world of the dead, as Deli did, and she is tired of being tired. I decided that she would move legally, so Pete Wolf quickly and best called the Blue Squad, the Rapid Rescue Squad, responsible for protecting him after him. I give them descriptions of those involved, and after all that, she meets Delia. She moved and remained between the dead, and Astrid and Kevin arrived at the integration department, which is the Soul train station. And here, Astrid believes when Kevin knows her that he laughed at her for the second time, and that the spell she said wrote on herself a contract that she would prefer to be among the dead forever. And while she was being transported to the train of the dead, Charlie saw her. Her father and they are surprised to see how she is here when she arrives at the Soul train station and the House of the Juices takes her away. He runs away because he is afraid that Leo will catch up with him and kill him. The problem here is that Astrid entered the train of the dead and cannot get out of it because the number of dead is very large, but Leda is able to pull it and escape with it before the soldiers of the Blue Division see her and arrest them, but it is still worse, and this is because they entered a bad door from the beginning of the station, and this will be an entrance to a second world worse than the world of the dead, and the matter has not yet been resolved. Here it will be. There is a very large and very terrifying worm that emerges from between the sand and it attacks them, and seconds before the worm kills them, Charlie comes at the right time and transfers and quickly thinks of a solution for Astrid to return again to the real world. At the same time, Wolf is sitting and responding with boop in order to know the location of the goose house. But Bob is unable to give him a useful answer, so he flies off and leaves him. Wolf walks away, but the worst happens, which is that Louis, she saw him, went in after him, found him in seconds, and took his soul. In return, Delia could not bear to sit for another minute among the dead, and so she decided to invite Beetlejuice to show her a way out. Before he finalized the exit permit from the world of the dead, Beetlejuice appeared to him and refused, and then moved on to a fire pit, and then Charlie escapes. I sold him, and he takes them to a place from which they can get out without anyone taking him. In his mind, he is the only one who knows this place, and quickly his hand goes to Lori to complete the marriage between them before the House of the Walnut appears and ruins the world. But he appears and is with Delia in Beirut to Lori to return him to the world of his own, the House of Beetlejuice, and he hates the truth. And this is to reveal everything that is in his heart and what is in his mind about Leda, and he actually said very hurtful things that should not be said, so Leda's people beat him with a box. Love makes him fly in front of her, and then the House of the Nuts does a very terrifying move to the guests, which is that he makes them enter their phones, literally, and he also makes the rest of them dance and behave in strange ways, completely against their will. At the same time, Wolf and his band emerge from the world of death and cut off the house on the House of the Nuts in order to return it, once again to the world of the dead, and not only that, Louis also knew the location of the house and it would be going to Beetlejuice's house is all evil on his part, but his daughter wants the opportunity and takes the book Guide to the Dead and draws on the ground a portal to the world of the sandworm. This is still a smart move on her part to eliminate them all at once, but the worm only kills Louis and returns again to its own world, and after that it knows how to get Beetlejuice back. He has no right to marry Leda, and this is because he violated the terms of the contract and entered Leda into the world of the dead in a way illegal. And after Leda says his name 3 times, he begins to swell greatly and then dies. In return, Wolf takes Delia and returns again to the dead. This is because she cannot be in the real world, but this will be very good for her, so that she can see Charlie and meet him for the second time, and in the end, she begins to regain her life. She is new, she is tired of finding a young man, she loves him, she gets married, and after a period of time she gets pregnant and enters the hospital to give birth. But it happens. Something even stranger than the strangeness is that it leaves a child behind in a very terrifying and very strange way, a copy of Beetlejuice. But in the end all of this turns out to be a nightmare for his hand, but that's it until here, my friend, and our movie ends. If you liked the movie and the summary, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you the next video.